Today I'm reviewing a phone which was released about a year ago in 2020 October. A phone which is bringing you almost every flagship perk you need, but at an affordable price. I'm Daniel and this is D-Tech. Let's see what is this device capable of. As we are unboxing the phone, we can see that we got some paperwork, a charging cable and a charging brick. But wait a second. So, let's boot up this phone real quick. Booting up the device took around 2 minutes, and to be honest with you, it couldn't be easier to transfer your data from your old phone to the new one, because you have this amazing application which is called Smart Switch, and yeah, thanks Samsung. Talking a bit about the phone, we can tell that it weighs 190 grams, it has glass front, plastic back and aluminum frame, it is dust and water resistant thanks to its IP68 certification. It has a 6.5-inch Super AMOLED 120Hz refresh rate HDR10 Plus display with a resolution of 1080x2400 pixels, which will bring you an amazing 407 pixel per inch density. Well, actually the interesting part comes when we are talking about the platform, because this phone is available with two processors. There are two variants of this phone. One which is using an Exynos 990 chipset and another one which is using a Snapdragon 865 5G chipset. Well, both of these processors are working on a 7nm technology, but in my opinion the Snapdragon 865 5G works much better. Based on what you need, you can find this phone with 128 to 256 GB of storage and 6 to 8 GB of RAM. The phone has a triple camera setup on the back and a single selfie camera. It is using Bluetooth 5.0, USB Type-C 3.2 and it has no headphone jack. It has also an under-display fingerprint sensor and it has a 4500 mAh battery with, well, Samsung says a 25 watts fast charging capability. Okay, so now as we have a clue about the phone specification, we can now talk about benchmarks and stuff, because we are actually interested, and I guess that you are actually interested in how is this phone doing in 2021. Well, it's been a year since this phone was released, but in my opinion, well, stay with me and let's find out. So I decided to run a few benchmark tests on this phone, and here are the results. Let's start with Geekbench 5. As you can see, the single core score is 897, which is pretty comparable with high-end phones, for example with the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus or even the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. So to be honest with you, I'm pretty impressed so far. Also, looking at the multi-core score, this phone is just, well, nuts. I mean, I'm blown away by these benchmarks. But let's see how does this phone perform under the stress of other benchmark tests. The testing went on with the application named 3D Mark, and however there were some performance drops in some sections, overall the phone did just great. And as you can see here, it performed 98% better compared to this type of phones, compared to the S20 FEs, and 66% better compared to all other phones which were making this test. Overall, yes, of course, we need to take into consideration those performance drops, but we need also to mention that this was a pretty aggressive test. It was actually a loop test, so it was performing the same test again and again and again until it reached 20 times. So yes, obviously the performance drops is normal. And as you can see, in this case the phone is telling us that it cannot perform this test because the phone is too powerful for this. So in conclusion, I would say honestly that this phone was performing above average. Obviously benchmarks are cool, but we need to see how the phone is performing in real-life situations, for example in games, which could be pretty hard to digest for these phones. But for games we also need to have some pretty amazing speakers, so let's see how does this phone perform in this situation. In my opinion, the phone speakers are just okay, they are decent. It gives you a good amount of bass and is just fine for gaming and listening to music. So finally, let's get to the gaming section. I just downloaded a few games from the Play Store so you can see how this phone is performing. At my first try, I was downloading a game named Subway Surfers, but I just realized after a few seconds that I was going too easy on this phone. So I just downloaded another game, which hopefully will give more headaches to this phone. Well, not really, to be honest. It performed just fine with both of the games. Before finishing the video, I was curious to test one more thing, and this was the RAM management. And I was testing this by not closing the other applications, including the other game, the Subway Surfers. And I have good things to tell, because the other game was just going from where I left. So yes, another plus point for this phone. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you liked it, drop it a like and don't forget, the subscribe button is just one click away from you. Thanks again guys, and see you next time.